I'm Jason Klom, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome. The year is 1973. The album, Clower Power. The artist, Jerry Clower. And my guest, Ned Hastings, again. So you picked something that I was super familiar with originally. We talk about the Muppets, and then you pick this insane... It is the most, like, there is like it's a genre of comedy album, which is just like plain speaking, normal everyday folk, even though he may not have exactly been that, but.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, I think he does have, I mean, he's working he's got a thing, he's got a style. He's got a vibe that he's working. So it's not completely plain speaking. I tell you, I was re-listening to it. I actually listened to it again today.
Uh-huh.
And I kept asking myself, and again, this, I've been following your Dick Davey journey.
Yeah.
And obviously the content is not at all similar.
Right.
But I mean, if this was a guy who was playing a Jerry Clower-like comedian, you'd pay a lot closer attention, I think.
For sure.
Than just knowing, oh no, he really is a fertilizer salesman from Yazoo City, Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
Now, okay, let me back up. The reason that I suggested we do this is because, I mean, everyone knows that's been on here now that the George Carlins have been gone through, the Cheech and Chongs have been gone through, the Steve Martin records. I mean, everyone has done all those, and then I think you said, well, it doesn't even have to be one that you like all that much,
right? Yeah.
But here's what's funny about it is also the first time I listened to your show, you had Dave Willis and Casper Kelly on.
Uh-huh.
Whom I work with at Adult Swim. And Dave made an offhanded remark about Jerry Clower. It was just like, drop the name as a don't be, you don't want to be this guy, that kind of an idea. I can't remember how the setup was. Okay. But I remember thinking, oh crap, I've got a Jerry Clower LP that I used to listen to a lot.
Yeah.
So then it became, I hadn't listened to it long enough to be able to say, no, listen to Jerry, he's good. He's easy to... Yeah. But by the same token, I was kind of like, I got to own up to having owned it.
Sure.
I mean, one of your questions is always, what did you grow up listening to? Well, I had a Jerry Clower record. Granted, I had some Steve Martin records too. I had all of them, as a matter of fact.
Sure.
And some Bill Cosby. And Robin Williams. But I had this Jerry Clower.
I'm guessing you didn't own... Sorry, because apologies, everybody. As per usual, podcast standards, we're doing this over the internet, and I'm going to do my best to not step over you. But I will just say, I'm guessing you didn't own them all, because this man had more records than I've seen in a long time. Holy shit.
No. That's amazing, because I did go on 27. To Wikipedia, and he basically, once he started recording, it looks like he recorded for 27 years, and he did 27 albums.
Uh-huh.
And that's not counting, I guess there's some greatest hits compilations and that kind of thing. But yeah, cranking them out. Like one year I noticed it was 2 in 1 year.
That's nuts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of material.
Oh,
that's
for
a
sure.
lot of material.
And I'm wondering how much of this, like, because the story at least goes that he was, a fertilizer salesman. And honestly, you picked a good album because he talks about his own mythology in it.
You know what's funny is I was thinking about him building up to this, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if this guy was one of those guys who got into this because he was entertaining business people.
Yeah.
Which, did Bob Newhart do that as well?
Here's the thing. I'm
Because
glad you
they're the
brought
same
that up.
guy. Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up because, like, there were. I think Bob Newhart's story is a little muddled here and there because the story has always been, at least in terms of recording the album. Obviously, somebody knew who he was beforehand and had to put him up at those, those 2 shows in Texas that became his first 2 live shows. But friend of the show, Steve Young, a gentleman who did Bathtubs Over Broadway, did not direct it, but it stars in it. He sent me.
God.
Oh,
My
it's
new
so
hero.
Good.
You mean?
Isn't he the
That's
best?
Steve Young?
Holy crap, he's fantastic.
I'm an evangelist for that movie too. By the way, I tell
It's
anyone
wonderful.
I'm stopping people on the street from 6 feet away and saying, "You need to watch this movie." Sorry, go ahead. That's my COVID
No,
joke
you're
for the
fine.
night.
Well, and I put him in contact with other people too because people are like, can you put me? This guy's fascinating. I'd like to talk to him. But he said, yeah, I've got in amongst all this trade show stuff I have, I've got something with Bob Newhart in it. I'm like, that's never really talked about, but 100%. This is a picture of Bob Newhart wearing a greasy a set of overalls. Comedian Bob Newhart, in a specially written skit, shows dealers what not to do in handling customers. So, and this is for some kind of. I'll have to ask him what this was for. This is 1959. This is right.
He's using the
about
shtick
the time.
though
Yeah.
Yeah. I have wondered though if he was maybe doing his act at not necessarily in shows, but dinner, awards things. Okay, we need some entertainment. Well, Bob does that thing where he talks on the phone.
Right.
I was rewatching recently because we're all watching TV all the time now. Comedians in Cars. I went back through almost the entire series because I love it. And one of the things they talk about in one of the, I can't remember who the comedian was, they talk about Foster Brooks.
Yeah.
You know the comedian Foster Brooks, who's the drunk act guy. And I only knew him as a kid because he was on those Dean Martin roasts, and I would watch those because when you're a child, you think that's funny. Or in the 70s, when you're 60, you think that's funny. And Foster Brooks' drunk act, apparently, that started as a corporate thing.
No surprise.
He would go to corporate gigs. They would have like a dinner thing, and they would say, okay, our next speaker is the CEO of the company we're going to merge with next month. That's what this comedian said. It. And then he'd get up and do his drunk act, and that's the gag, It's
fantastic.
So anyway, I was thinking about Jerry Clower, and I was like, I wonder, because I knew he was a fertilizer salesman. I remembered, because I haven't listened to this record in 30 years at least. I was like, I remembered that he used to talk about fertilizer and selling fertilizer. And I was like, when you're a kid, you think, oh, he's a comedian that used to sell fertilizer. Everybody used to do something. But then now that I know what I know about how comedians came about, especially in that period of the 50s to through 60s, I was like, I wonder if that's how if he started telling jokes as a salesman, and then and sure enough, there is a cut on the record where he tells the story of how he got to selling to make cutting and selling records and what's funny is I remember details about that bit because there's a couple of lines that always kind of made me laugh, but I didn't remember the actual I was selling fertilizer and making jokes and I just didn't remember that. But in fact, that I was wikiing it while I was listening, and I went, oh, I was right, and here's the proof on and I knew this all along and forgot. So
it's interesting too. Like it feels like people like him and then other artists, not necessarily just comedy. There is this weird thing where I feel like if you've got a quick enough rise to prominence in any field, and to the point where like, oh yeah, no, I'm getting my records distributed by a real company, whatever. Your ability and willingness to self-reference, I think, like, how quickly rap artists come up and they're like, well, I'm going to talk about how good I am at rap. I'm going to talk about, hey, look how fucking quickly this just happened for me. It's interesting to hear it happen with this guy with a southern accent who is the biggest personality you've ever heard on a record. Just like, oh, well, this is how I got my record, and it's kind of weird, but he makes it entertaining. He makes it funny.
Oh yeah, that's actually one of my cuts on the record that still made me laugh. He has that line because the first record company that called him was one of the record companies from New York, and they said, we'd like to meet with you next time you're in town. We want you to drop by.
Uh-huh.
And he said, that's not going to happen. You don't leave Yazoo City, Mississippi, and just drop by New
Right.
York. And that, not only did I love that line as a kid, but I've probably spun variants of that line at people over the years, as a sarcasm, So, there's a lot of kind of funny stuff in that. That's my question for you. Did you laugh?
Did I laugh? I'm not going to claim to have comedy damage, as Steve does, but I will claim to be hard to make audibly laugh sometimes.
Okay.
Maybe because on a
Okay.
first listen, a lot of the times I am thinking real hard. I'm trying also to avoid doing what I normally do, which is like, I'm going to do something else while I listen. I tried real hard to actively listen too, but I will say I probably got distracted a couple times. But I was like, probably cracked a smile here and there. And then a lot of it I was perplexed by because I'm like, this guy is so Southern that these stories don't track in the same way, I don't think, for me.
No,
I could be wrong.
They don't. And I can remember as a kid my parents having to explain some of it to me. And there's still some that I didn't get. I looked up cutworm.
Oh, yeah. What the hell? What is that?
Well, I know what a cutworm is, and I know what greens are, but I don't know what the rag significance is. I still don't know what that is because my parents didn't know either. My parents are Southerners, but neither one of them could be described as agrarian in any way. And now, here's what's interesting, and I think this is why this guy I latched onto as a kid. Okay, it's probably not interesting, but my dad is from Mississippi, which is and my dad went to Mississippi State, which is Jerry Clower talks about that too, and he played football there, which Jerry Clower talks about that. And so I think as a kid, I kind of was like, I mean, I'm not going to say that I really fancied myself going down the sort of country path that people intentionally go down. You know what I mean? Like the people who like, but when you're a kid and you're kind of trying on identity, and I didn't identify with Mississippi at all, but my dad was from there, and we would visit occasionally, and it was mysterious and interesting to me, and I didn't, it was my dad's upbringing was so different from mine that I think I was fascinated by it.
I get that.
And so that stuff as a kid, resonated. I don't know if that's quite the word, but it intrigued me, certainly.
No, I can
and so, so I, but again, even that, some stuff they could kind of explain to me. Either one of them could. And then there was some stuff that maybe mom couldn't, but dad could, because my mom grew up in Atlanta. But dad could. And then there's still some stuff I don't know what he's talking about.
Sure. I mean, he's a very specific man of a specific time and a specific place. What blows my mind, I would love to see sales figures, because 27 albums is untenable unless you're selling them all. It's just, that's a lot of shit. Well,
one of the figures I saw, I guess he charted his
a lot.
First record was sort of, I was going to say his first record was the one that was self-produced, and I guess a radio station. I think it's the same station where the Grand Ole Opry is broadcast. They got a hold of it and they played it on one of the tracks, and it sold like 1 million copies. In 1973 or I guess that was 71 or 2, because he started late. I mean, it was the 70s. Which that's the other thing. I got the record, I guess, in like 77 or 78 once I was into comedy records, maybe even 79. So I think I thought it was fairly new at that time. And we were getting so close to kind of the Reagan era in the 80s, and everybody, country music was really getting big by the late 70s. Early, you had Mickey Gilley and Urban Cowboy and Kenny Rogers, the late great Kenny Rogers was big, and there's a lot of crossover. And I remember just kind of thinking, okay, well, this is normal. But now I realize, I'm like, wow, 72, 73, there's something a little more kind of authentic about that to me, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
I'm not sure why that's important.
I mean, so many people latched on to, like, for lack of a better, this is like my only point I can latch on to. I've talked about it before, but I'm fascinated with CB culture and what that did, and everybody all of a sudden was Southern. Did we talk? Now, did you and I talk before? No, we didn't talk before I had on.
No, you and I have emailed about it, and because that was what I loved those episodes that you've talked about. The who was the trucker record that you guys
that was
talked about?
Jay Hughley, aka
Yes.
oh my God, well I only remember his real name. Hey, that gives me a little bit of credit. What the hell?
That's funny.
I can't. But the White
I
Knight.
can't remember his name either. All I can think of is C.W. McCall, but that's a different guy.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Oh, Cletus Maggard. There we go. Cletus Maggard. That's what he was called. The White Knight. This holy shit. And just like that hillbilly, he's just like his teeth are not looking good. He's wearing a terrible shirt.
Yeah.
And then comparing it to that oil painting his son was nice enough to send me a picture of him as Don Quixote.
Oh God, that's wonderful.
Oh God, that was a good one. I want to do more CB stuff. Like there's so much more. So much more. But
now, see, that touches on something interesting to me, and this is one of the things that I do find consistently funny about this record, Clower Power, is when he talks about the Ledbetter family, which apparently is a common thread throughout his entire career. The Ledbetter family.
Right.
Now, Ledbetter is one of those names. I apologize to any Ledbetters who may be listening, but that's just one of those names that just you're not going to meet a guy named Ledbetter in New York City.
right.
You're only going to meet a Ledbetter in the South.
Right.
I mean, that's just one of those names.
With one huge exception. I can say one huge exception. Leadbelly, because his last name was Ledbetter. That's the only one. That's the only Ledbetter I think of when I hear it.
Where was he from?
But I'm sure he's from the South.
Where was he from?
He's from the South. I mean, I'm sure he is.
Correct. But no, it's just one of those quintessential names. And he may have known a family of Ledbetters, but he lists their names in one part of the act. And again, I mean, Southerners have been making up fake names forever, but Cletus Ledbetter or a Clovis Ledbetter is a really funny name.
Yeah.
That's a funny name. And what I notice when he reels them off, he doesn't say this is the order of their birth. He just lists all their names, and they all start with it's like Raynell and WL, and like, which it's funny that like they all have like their names end in L, but then one of them is just initials WL, and that's funny to me. And then he ends it with Eugene, Claude, and Clovis, and there's a rhythm to that. He knows there's a rhythm to that, and he's either made up these names, or he's listed them in such a way that he knows that's going to get the laugh.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, praise the comic genius of Jerry Clower, but you can't ignore it. You can't, there's something there. He knows what he's doing.
100%. I mean, sales patter becomes, I never became great at it, but I've heard good salespeople. Some of them become the devil, and then other people become funny, and or can charm you even though they are the devil. And I can't speak to his what he sold, but he actually I hope he actually did sell fertilizer, because the idea that he was a shit salesman is funny in and of itself. That is, it's brilliant.
Apparently, he was selling seeds at one point.
Interesting. It's so funny.
Yeah. And there's a couple of bits in the record where he talks about fertilizer, because at one point he talks about how country he is, which again, that's where you kind of go, oh God, really? We're gonna get into a country contest with Loretta Lynn. But again, it comes from a boy, the way I just said again sounds bad. It comes from I think, more or less honest place.
Yeah.
I don't think. It's not that chest beating, I was country before country was cool kind of a thing that was big in the 80s. This was the early 70s, and I think he's being kind of genuine about it, and he's trying to get to a joke, and it's not a great joke, but it's I tell you what, it's not a bad joke, it's just not a great punchline.
Right.
But it works. At any rate, he at one point he talks about how he studied agriculture and got a degree, and he can name out, and he starts reeling off technical names for fertilizer, and again, it's funny. The way he reels them out is funny, and the way he works the terminology is kind of funny. And I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for jargon. I'm a sucker for anybody that can turn jargon into a funny moment.
Right.
Steve Martin used to do
Yeah,
that. He's got that joke about the plumber, which is just, I can still recite. I won't, but I can. And that's what that joke is about. It's about how the terms that that you use within a certain small group make sense to that group, but they're kind of funny to everybody outside the group.
Which is weirdly, whether intentionally or not, weirdly meta, because this kind of Southern comedy, if it tracks for you and you're from elsewhere, he's done his job. But it's not dissimilar to exactly what he's talking about there, because again, I was lost through some of it, but the storytelling and the passion of it, and like again, just the whole salesman of it was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get how this guy sucked people in.
How many times as a kid did you watch a funny movie, or a cartoon for that matter, or hear a stand-up comedian that tells a joke that you don't understand, but you laugh anyway because you buy the pattern of it, and you buy the the geometry of x plus y equals z, so solve for x,
100%. Yeah.
And I would say that happens on this record a little bit. I may not quite get what he's talking about, like on a very, very cognitive level, but I get it on a humorous level, and it plays. I think it plays better for the people who get cutworm jokes.
Sure.
But it's not that it doesn't play entirely. So yeah, you're right. There is something kind of meta about that. And I mean, when when he reels out the names of the Ledbetter family, the people laugh. I mean, he does it as a joke. He does it on purpose. And when he does it with there's a couple of times where he talks about fertilizer, and he gets very specific, and it's funny.
Yeah.
You hear the audience laughing.
Well, and people trust you when you've just made yourself an authority on something, even if it's something they don't know anything about. So it's like, oh yeah, no, I can list a million friggin' things, and it sounds so legit, and there's, again, so much energy behind it. It's like, oh, he's bringing me on a journey, and I guess I gotta follow.
Here's another one. When he talks, it's that one where where he talks about getting the record deal, and Decca Record calls him and says, we want you to sign with Decca Records, and he says, well, tell me about Decca Records, and they say, well, it was founded by Bing Crosby, and he says, okay, I know who that is, keep going, and they reel off some people that are all big names, and he's not impressed, and then he reels off a whole bunch of country singers. And that's when Jerry's like, and it's funny. His reaction is funny. What he says is funny. His I'm on board. The whatever is the phrase. You've talked about people I know something about. That's funny to me. Now he says Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty, and everybody kind of has heard those names. But then he reels off, Ernest Tubb, which not everybody knows who that is. And there's a few of those, and it's funny because they're funny names. They come in a funny order, and the more obscure they get, the funnier that joke becomes, because it's about him knowing who they are, and you don't have to know who they are.
Right.
In fact, it's better if you don't.
For sure. I agree. There's also there's something to go back to the salesman thing. There's kind of two approaches, and one of them is you can make a sale by making somebody think that you're their best friend. The other way, and maybe more successful way, is to make them think they're being let in on your whole life and who you are. And his ability to sell again, that's just good storytelling, but it's like, hey, this is of interest to you. Please listen now. You will listen now.
I'm a real
guy is a huge part of it too. Yeah, it's like, oh, no, I'm just like you. Yes, sure, I'm rich as shit probably, but I'm just like you. He 3 gold records, by the way. I should point that out. 3 gold records. 3 gold records, and that's within 8 years of his releasing his first one, because his first one's 71.
Wow.
71.
Wow.
Holy crap. I love that. So Clower Power 73, so it's Takeoff on Flower Power. The cover, by the way, this is crazy ass psychedelic boot.
You know what?
I love it.
I know. Isn't that amazing? That's got to be the second pressing or something, right? That can't be the original cover.
Right. I do wonder. I mean, yeah, it's a good question. It's not, he looks like a crazy creature on the cover.
I never made the Flower Power connection at all. Never. I just thought, well, it rhymes. It's funny. Never thought about flower power. That's
Isn't
really
it?
funny. Oh my god. Oh my
And
god.
he looks like a crazy preacher on the cover. That's all I see.
Yeah, he does.
I love it. Brilliant.
Now, I do remember. Here's the other thing about him, and this is what got me thinking about. Well, maybe he was a fertilizer salesman. Is that even as a kid, I was like, why don't I know who this is? He's obviously still around. Why isn't he on Johnny Carson? I mean, we know why, but I mean, as a kid, I'm like, why don't I know who this is? There's a lot of comedians. There was Ray Stevens, or gosh, was it the other guy? The guy, I'm blanking. The guy who sang Spiders and Snakes.
Oh my god, I don't know who that is. You've stumped me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I always used to confuse him with Ray Stevens.
Jim Stafford.
Gonna call Jim Stafford.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Did you just look that up?
I did.
God, you're quick. Look at you, man. That's freaking great. Jim Stafford had a kind of a country bent to him, and a comic bent, and a musical bent, and he would pop up. I think he had a summer replacement show. Glenn Campbell had a summer replacement show.
Yeah, he's took over for the Smothers Brothers, right?
Correct. Right. So Jerry Clower wasn't on those shows. So there was always kind of a with me where I didn't know why I didn't know him. And I think the final answer is that he, as successful as he was still so niche.
There's no crossover
that
appeal
he wasn't
really
going to get. Yeah, exactly. Now in the '80s when cable took over and when cable first came on, every station was very specific. You had a weather channel and that's all you did. They had ESPN and that is all they did was talk about sports all day long. MTV only showed music all day long. And then there's country music television, or I think before that it was called like the Nashville Network.
Yeah.
He would pop up on there.
Interesting.
Like doing station IDs and stuff like that. And according to his wiki page, he did a lot of commercials.
Saw that.
A lot of regional commercials and things like that. So he was known in certain groups. You're just not going to see him on, Dean Martin's not going to invite him on the roast to do his shtick. So I remember just thinking, why don't I know who this guy is? Why am I not seeing him out in the real world like I did Steve Martin or other comedians?
Did this album make its way into the house through your parents, or did you buy it yourself?
This one I bought myself. I have an older sister. She's 6 years older than me. So I'm 10, she's 16. That's a big, gap. She had a boyfriend in high school who was a comedy guy. And he would show up every now and then at the house with bringing records. And we would just listen to him. And I mean, he would listen to Steve Martin with us. In fact, that's why I memorized that plumber joke, so I could do it for him, because he was just dumbfounded that I knew the whole joke. He had the record right before this is called "Mouth of Mississippi," which is kind of a funny joke, and he brought that over, and we listened to it, and so I think that gave Jerry Clower a cool stamp for me. If David liked it, and David is the guy who got me listening to Steve Martin, and he came over to the house and they watched the first episode of Saturday Night Live, and I sat up and watched it with them.
Love it.
And so to me, if he liked it, then it must be good. And so I found it in a bargain bin. In fact, the record I have, the corner is clipped off. Because that's what they used to do. They would mark the record in some way so that if it got moved out of the bin, they'd know it was one of the bargain bin records. And I found it in the bargain bin, and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this. So I'll have my own Jerry Clower record.
Love it.
And it was one I could play for my parents too, though. I wouldn't play Steve Martin with my parents.
Sure. No, I get that.
That one I would, I would listen to my room, and there was a few jokes I knew I had to get to the dial and turn it down before it got out. Didn't have to do that with Jerry.
No, that makes sense. I'm wondering if I ever. I'm trying to think if I ever. No, here's the thing. My parents gave me my first stand up, and it was Billy Connolly. It was a Billy Connolly tape, and there's no getting around all the shit that he would say. Filthy, filthy, filthy stuff. Fantastic, but oh yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, it's mostly talking about things that they didn't care if I heard him talking about sex. They didn't really. He just talks a lot about sex dolls, and sex devices.
Oh, that's great.
All kinds of stuff. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, see, we're different.
You're right.
Ages.
Yeah. Well, my parents also had no sense of boundaries, so that's kind of what that was all about.
My parents had great sense of boundaries. Really highly defined sense of boundaries.
Was Jerry Clower a part of your life, like just a period? Did you buy any more of his albums, or is it just this one?
Nope. I was happy with this one, and I listened to it, and I probably. I took all my records with me everywhere I went. So he went to college with me, but I don't remember ever listening again. Hey, by the same token, I listened obsessively to Reality What a Concept for a couple of years there and never touched it again either. I still have it, So that has. I'm not saying I flirted with Jerry Clower and then stepped away. No, I mean, the truth is I just got bored with it the way you do with anything that's not Steve Martin.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I mean, but I still have it. Still have the record because I can't get rid of records. I just can't bring myself to do it. And I think I liked the fact that I had it and that I tried it and that I listened to it and it made me laugh. Boy, I was shocked to find it on iTunes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with that big of a label behind them, they're gonna. I mean, Dick Davey. What's so funny is when I emailed Columbia about Dick Davey, I'm like, hey, whatever happened to the Masters? They're like, oh yeah, that crossed my desk a couple months ago, and they're on iTunes now, and all this stuff. And it's like, man, like you guys don't care, do you?
Oh, are
yeah,
they really?
you can get Dick Davey on Spotify and on iTunes. There's some research I'm having to do because I'm not sure because. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if there are residuals, they're probably not going to anybody in his family. And I'm like, how do you fix that?
Now, before this gets out of the world, I do want to say, when I compare Jerry Clower to Dick Davey, I'm not comparing them in any sense of the word, other than I was saying, if this were a guy with a character that he was doing the way that Dick Davey did, you would pay attention. Or let's put it this way, or Andy Griffith. I mean, Dick Davey used his character to tell truths about ourselves that would be difficult to hear otherwise. Andy Griffith played with the whole, country bumpkin in the real world idea. So in a way, Jerry Clower is more similar to that. The differences, again, is, yes, Andy Griffith was a true Southerner. He's from North Carolina, but he was very cosmopolitan in a lot of ways, and he knew what he was doing, and he knew that he was also using that shtick to it's a shtick.
For sure.
It's an act. And then, whereas Jerry Clower, it's not an act. He's Jerry Clower. There is an act to his act, but he's not pretending to be anything other than who
I gotta
he is.
say, I'd like to know more. It's too bad that he's passed, but I'd like to know more about Andy Griffith's, just like his deep down motivations for that. Because he was an interesting dude, because you knew he was super religious, because as an older man, he'd do these commercials for these albums where he was just singing Jesus songs. But he's also big time liberal, and worked very, and not that you can't be a Christian liberal, but he was a guy who was super Southern, super liberal, super Christian, and it was one of those things you just didn't see, at least in terms of like stereotypes represented on TV. It wasn't that frequent that you would see that.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, his liberalism and his Christianity predates our modern segregated notion of those two things.
Very true.
I mean, he was a Southerner. He was blue collar. That usually meant Democrat for a lot of years. Yeah. A lot of years. I mean, even when I was in high school, the South was still a blue bloc. Yeah. It wasn't until Reagan that changed. So, yeah, I mean, I've known people my whole life who were liberal and Christian and Southern. I mean, my parents are still liberals. They're 80 and they're 87. Right. My grandparents were Democrats, partly because they lived through the Depression and they know what the Democrats did.
Right. Well, it also goes to show like what
everybody.
Kind of exposure I had that my brain is still on that track where I'm like, you know, I'm raised with this perception, not necessarily by my parents, but raised around a certain perception.
Yeah. No, it's a perfectly normal perception at this stage. It just wasn't before that. No, actually, to me, what's interesting about Andy Griffith isn't that he was a Southern Christian that was a liberal. It's that he was an 86-year-old Southern Christian liberal. I mean, he stayed liberal. And that's more, I mean, that's unusual for anybody.
For sure. That's absolutely true.
A lot, I mean, most, you know, there's a joke in a Alan Sherman song about that. Or the Harvey and Sheila has a joke about that the couple that meet working for JFK and then by the end they're working for the GOP. And then his line is, "That's the way things go," is the line after that. And that's, you know, a guy talking about a Jewish couple in the 60s. You know, that's a common thing. So yeah, no, that to me is what's great about Andy Griffith. But I mean, he was a smart guy. I mean, and he was a good actor. So good. You know, I suspect there was. And by the way, I also hear things about him on that show that apparently he was pretty tough to work for, and he was exacting, and those aren't traits you normally associate not only with his character but with anybody that's sort of a nice Southern Christian, you know, liberal guy, whatever. Sounds like he was
a real hard-ass artist. Like he wanted to get his stuff done, and to do that with a sitcom that I think is, you know, it's lumped in, as are so many sitcoms. Anytime something's black and white, there's a certain group of people who are like, yeah, I love all old comedies. Right. All these old comedies, they're all just so fun and innocent. It's like, you do know that he was playing with that form, right? You do know he was commenting on small town living while also, you know, maybe lamenting the loss of a childhood, but they still knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And
he was drawing on stuff he knew, and so was Don Knotts. Yeah. Don Knotts was from West Virginia. They were drawing on stuff that they knew, and that's what makes it real and makes it funny. But the humor itself can be very sophisticated.
For sure.
I mean, and let's put it this way: nowadays it's more people tend to lump black and white comedy into a certain group. There are people who who would be very willing to lump the Andy Griffith Show in with Jerry Clower and not even think about it. And it's like, no. That's not. You know, people are just like, oh, that's just dumb country comedy. That's small town comedy. Right. I'm like, no.
This is not hee haw. We're not talking about hee haw.
No, it's not. Although we can defend.
Oh, I'm sure. There's got to be a hee haw record, and I'd be happy to talk about it. It's been forever since, you know, I lived in Oklahoma for a while. I'm sure we watched some hee haw as a kid. I know I did. I just don't remember any of it.
Oh, I know I did. I actually, truthfully, I would watch it came on at 7:00 on Saturday night, and I would watch half of it because the other half I was watching the Muppet Show. But yeah, I would watch it. It used to make me laugh. I mean, I didn't dive into it. I didn't just, love everything about it. But it had and I didn't love the music, quite frankly. I like it better now.
Sure.
I mean, Buck Owens, I kind of really like, and I didn't want to listen to him at all when that show came on. But I thought it was kind of funny. You know, it was the country laugh in. It was blackout jokes and recurring characters and. Yeah, I'm not. I'm
not ashamed to admit that shit usually still gets to me, and I will probably laugh if I were to pick up an episode of that today. I was just thinking about it because, like, what he, the thing about Jerry Clower is then he also moves on after this massive success within this certain world to, I mean, hit the big time in terms of country, which is performing at the Grand Ole Opry every week or whenever they performed.
And that happened, apparently, according to Wikipedia, fast. Like, he joined the Grand Ole Opry in, 1974, and that was, his third record or fourth album.
Nuts. I mean, I'd love to perform at the Opry, and who the hell am I? I never would. They would not let me in.
This is something else I came across on Wikipedia. He had a radio show
Yeah, saw
for a
that.
while, and then he also hosted a TV show. But he had the radio show, and one of his co-hosts was a guy named Leroy Van Dyke.
I saw that name.
You don't come across the name Van Dyke in the South a lot. And it's Wikipedia, so he was actually had a live link, and I clicked on it, and he's from Missouri. And I think he's still alive, and he's like 90. And I'm like, wait a minute, Dick Van Dyke's from Missouri.
Oh, wait a minute.
It doesn't say that they're related. Neither of their Wikipedia says that they're related. But they're about the same age. Dick Van Dyke's a little bit older. They're both from Missouri, and they're both named Van Dyke. That cannot be. They've got to be related.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Just like I know that pretty much anybody who, even though they say their last name is Clam, anybody from that area, and they're also all from that same area, they're related. There's no doubt they're related.
Right. Yeah. I can't imagine that there's two families of Van Dykes in Missouri.
No. And if he okay, so yeah, he did the song The Auctioneer, which I know I've heard. That song.
Yes. And he had another one, I'm blanking on what it's, Walk On By, and that only stuck in my head because there's so many other songs by that title, particularly the Bird Back Rack. Yeah, so it's strange that they'd be related and it wouldn't show up on Wikipedia somewhere, but maybe nobody ever could make the connection, and maybe I'm just talking out of my ear. But, by the way, we talked about Dick Van Dyke and Andy Griffith in the last time.
You're right, we did. I mean, they're hard to escape.
Sooner or later, I'm going to get around to those.
I mean, we're going to have to talk about Andy. We've not talked about him on the show ever. None of his records have been covered, which is weird to me. Yeah, that's nuts, right?
Well, again, the reason he came up was because I mentioned that boyfriend of my sister's, because he's so tied to my early ownership of comedy records. And he's also the one who brought over What It Was Football and played it for us. And again, that was one that so Andy Griffith comedy had the imprimatur of David, and that was just I mean that one's not hard to but we also loved the show. I just didn't know he did stand up comedy.
What do you think the difference is? There's a distinct difference that probably comes roughly rooted from the same place, but taking a Jerry Clower and comparing him to Andy Griffith, these are both guys who. And maybe it's just the audience they're aiming at, but they both know that they are personalities. Jerry Clower knows, he has to know how he comes across to other people. He has to know how a Southerner is going to be perceived everywhere, because you're a salesman. You have to know how you're perceived. You know what your accent means, which is a hard thing to do. It's like, oh, right, my accent sounds different to these other people. And then, whereas Andy Griffith is using it to different ends. He's using it also to be an actor and to do all these different artful things, not to in any way, not to be detrimental to Jerry Clower if he considered himself an artist. He's a comedian, so I consider him an artist, but he's doing it in a very different way, but they're both using their Southernness to different ends, but both to get laughs, but in different ways. Can you identify what the difference is? Because I don't know what it is.
I think it comes from that idea of playing a character. I don't think Jerry Clower is playing a character. I think Jerry Clower was a very funny guy, funnier than everybody else around. Around him. He was always a funny guy. Always had I've known people like this, friends of my parents, that just had a knack for telling a story. Even if it's not a great story, or taking a story that's not that great of a story, that's kind of humdrum, and telling it in the way where you see, oh, that's
a very country thing, not just Southern. That's a country thing, because there's country upstate New York, and there's a lot of folks like that too. So yeah, that is a very country trait.
Yeah. It's funny that you make that distinction, because I was thinking about that today. I think that's why country music caught on the way it did when it did, was because there are country people everywhere. They're not all Southerners, but there are, there's small towns everywhere. That's why Andy Griffith's show worked. There's small towns everywhere, and there's a universality to that. There's specifics about a Southern small town that you're not going to get in a Midwestern small town. But there's generalisms that are going to be the same no matter what. This also ties into the realization that I came across not long ago when I realized that the second Newhart series, Newhart, the one where they had the inn in Vermont, that's Hee Haw. I mean, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
Green Acres.
very much so. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's the same show. It's the same show, and not just city guy in the country around country folk, but the added twist that the country folk are all kind of sort of canny and sort of know that people expect something of them that's not real, you know. So they lean into their countryness for their own benefit. Yeah. There's something they all kind of do that. I mean, the people on Green Acres are borderline hucksters,
right.
Every one of them,
right?
And that's common on the Newhart show too. So anyway, we're off topic. But yeah, I think the difference is that Jerry Clower was a funny guy who either could remember funny things that happened and tell them in a funny way, or maybe could embellish them in a way that made them more funny than they really were. Whereas Andy Griffith, yes, he was a Southerner. Yes, he was from a small town, but he was an actor. He went to New York. He started on Broadway. He did do the records, and I can't remember where that. I feel like I heard somewhere where those records came in after he had already been an actor. I think it was just like playing the guitar and singing and all those. I think it was just part of his bag of tricks that he pulled out to get himself across.
Right.
I think I remember hearing one. They have these big plays, these outdoor show plays that they do in certain states. They do them down in Florida, and they do them and there's one in North Carolina that's kind of about the founding of North Carolina, and it's called Unto These Hills. And I think he was in that, where he played like Sir Walter Raleigh. And it was one of those things where you sign up for the summer and you do it every night under the stars for tourists, basically. I think he did that for a couple of years, and then he was on. I feel like the records came after he was in No Time for Sergeants.
I was wondering that too, because I've only seen No Time for Sergeants, the film. But wait, what year did that come out? I'm now going to have to look. No Time for Sergeants.
It predates Face in the Crowd, so I'm going to ballpark guess 56.
That's probably about right, because the movie came out in 58. So I mean, in terms of how that stuff usually goes. But let's look at this.
Oh, the movie did come out.
Yeah, the movie came out in 58.
No Time for Sergeants.
Yeah. And then his album, let's just look at his discography, unless it's not going to tell me.
I think the album's like 59 or 60.
I think you're right. Oh, and it doesn't want to tell me, but I'll look that up in a moment. But
because one of the stories that I heard Dick Van Dyke tell the story is he met I'm sorry, Andy Griffith tells the story. He met Dick Van Dyke because he was in Atlanta actually, touring Pit for the record to kind of, and he heard the record being played at his radio station, and he heard the record being played down the hall, and he followed the sound, and Dick Van Dyke was in the booth lip syncing to it. He was what they called a record mime.
Love it.
I told this story before, by the way.
I can't remember shit.
Everyone thinks I have one story. He had a live show, a comedy show in Atlanta on TV with another guy named Phil Erickson, who had a short, round face, and Dick Van Dyke had that long, skinny face. And they would mime to records, and they're, of course, with these insane facial expressions. And he would do it every now and then on the Dick Van Dyke Show, too. It was, again, part of his bag of tricks. And that's how they met. Andy Griffith caught this kid just fooling around in the booth, miming to what it was. It was football.
So funny.
And it was Dick Van Dyke.
Just for Laughs came out. His first record, Just for Laughs, came out in '58. So the same year as No Time for Sergeants. It's a good year for Andy Griffith.
So yeah, I mean that was his attack. His multi-pronged attack. He just kind of came at you with everything he had. And again, Dick Van Dyke did that same thing. I mean, he was hosting game shows and stuff. Even after he had the show in Atlanta, I've heard him talk about hosting game shows in the Midwest, and those guys just kind of came at it from every direction.
I've actually, not to totally bring it back to Dick Davey at every point, but one of the things his family did tell me is that he was possibly, the stories are a little bit muddled because he's not around to tell them, and listening to, once you hear an actor complain about how he didn't get this or didn't get that, stuff sort of kind of blends into the next thing. But supposedly he was upset.
I could have been
basically
John Boy.
like he basically it couldn't have been the Andy Griffith Show, because I think that show was designed with Andy Griffith in mind from the very beginning. I think that was all him.
Oh, absolutely.
But it was something that Andy Griffith or somebody adjacent to that was in, that he was really expecting to get, which is interesting because Dick Davey was also in No Time for Sergeants on stage at one point, and
of course he was.
100%.
Right?
And I'm still trying to figure out where he learned to do and get stuck with this Southern accent. That's one of the options, possibly. I don't know where he came up with it, but I'm assuming it could be that. And this is just a period.
It's pretty good.
It is, right? I mean, like, I don't know what an Arkansas accent sounds like. I can't tell you if it's close to that.
No. No, and I can't either, quite frankly. But it's a convincing enough Southern accent. I mean, to be an accent that a lot of people think they can do, and then find out the hard way that they can't.
Mine is atrocious. Like, and it's in.
I mean, I have a Southern accent, and when I've done voices on Squidbillies where I have to crank it up a little bit, I don't do it well.
Well, what's funny is, like, I grew up, speaking of, like, there's country everywhere, the upstate New York accent is borderline Southern, especially where I grew up. But I also really can't do the upstate New York accent. Couldn't tell you why.
My mother-in-law is from Connecticut, very, very close to New Jersey. So her accent is very kind of New Jersey sounding, but she will occasionally end a sentence with the phrase "you hear." And I always thought that was a Southern thing.
To me too. That's
Southerners
amazing.
say that all the time. Yeah, she'll say it a lot. I mean, she'll say, "So, we went to the beach, you hear?" That's when we left, you hear? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe
really funny
that she's saying you hear. Yeah. So it's funny. You never know what stuff is gonna,
I need to get a linguist on this show, just for that reason alone.
It's like language. It's like language is like, this is a dumb analogy, but I kind of think of it as like language is like just this water. And it's just swimming around, and then the water recedes, and you get puddles of it everywhere. And sometimes you might get a puddle in New Jersey or Connecticut that sounds like the puddle in
well, the
in
Buffalo
Georgia.
accent is very similar to the Chicago accent. Very similar. And they've got connecting them are a few Great Lakes, but I mean, that could be enough. Literal water.
In Canada, though, I mean, there's a Canadian kind of. I always think of the Chicago accent as also being similar to. There's some Canadian twang.
Yeah, well, and my friend is from Minnesota, and he's like, well, the Minnesota accent is just a Chicago accent without blah blah blah, but it's also, there are some Canadian accents that are almost strictly Minnesota accents. They're very similar.
Well, my wife is from Virginia, and she does not have what I consider the typical Virginia accent, but her very good friend does, and she says house and about. Like the way a Canadian would. And I've known other people from Virginia, that's a very Virginia thing. And I'm like, why? Yeah. Why do they say house and about in Virginia and nowhere else? Like, why not North Carolina? It's crazy. In fact, I was saying, why don't there's a Scottish thing to that house. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I don't know how we got. So yeah, I mean, if there's the answer to
we really meander so much.
If there's an answer to this question that can be done in less than an hour, it is that I think Andy Griffith moved himself away from his Southernisms, and then turned around and used them to his own advantage by ratcheting them up. And I mean, just watch how he is at the end of that show versus midway through the show versus at the beginning of that show, where he's basically in some episodes actually doing bits of his act on the Andy Griffith show. So it was always an act. And let's put it this way: it's like he's canny enough about the fact that it's an act to play Lonesome Rhodes in No Time for Sergeants, or I'm sorry, in the Face of the Crowd, which is all about a guy using that, all of that, the good old boyness, the homespunness, the you can trust me, I'm honest thing, Whereas I think Jerry Clower was a guy who just had a funny accent, a funny way of telling stories, and used it to sell fertilizer. And then somebody said, "Hey, let's make a record." And then 27 records later, 27 years later.
That's the thing that gets me, dude. That's unusual. That like it's almost Red Fox level, not quite, but that's a lot of records. Oof. And I'm impressed by it. I'm like, if I could do 27 records, I will tell you, I've made like 13, and only 2 of them have been released publicly. But like to do that much stand up and have it be original material every time, and you're making people laugh, like that's a confident salesman. He's like, no, I got more material. Run the damn tapes. I got more. Yeah, I guarantee that's what it was.
I don't know. I mean, how many records did I think Miles Davis?
Right.
I mean, he did 4 in 2 days, because to finish a contract. But I mean, all they're doing is playing. I mean, I'm not all they're doing. They're phenomenal works of art. But he's playing songs that he didn't write a lot of the time, and some songs he does multiple times on across several different records. I mean, he's got new material, and that's that record is like 20 some. Granted, they're shortcuts. They're like a minute, 2 minutes each. But yeah, that is amazing, and I would have never known that. And again, talking about not seeing him on TV, I didn't see him on Hee Haw either.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He didn't rise to Junior Samples level of fame.
He might have been, and he could have very well been a guy who's like the way I would be if I somehow randomly got famous in Japan. I'd be like, I'm fine with this. I don't need any more than this. This is just enough to keep me going. I've got people. I've got the cheers. I've got the crowds. I don't give a shit. I don't need crossover appeal. Thank you very much. I've found my people. That could very much be a part of it.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking too. I don't know where this record was recorded.
Oh, that's a good question. Do I physically own it? I don't think.
I wonder if he even ever left. I don't know if he ever even left the region. I mean, if you're going to be on Johnny, you got to go to L.A. If you're going to be on Hee Haw, you got to go to L.A.
Yeah, that never occurred to me. I mean,
I never thought about it either. But yeah, he probably never his family probably still lived in, I doubt they still lived in Yazoo City, Mississippi, but they probably lived in Jackson.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, according to this, born in Liberty, Mississippi, died in Jackson. So, I mean, that says a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I've never heard of Liberty, Mississippi in my life. And my family's from all over that state. It's actually not far from where some of my family is from. But he probably just stayed in that region. He probably maintained that, for one thing, and again, this gets back to the comedy itself, he had to stay in that region. You're not going to take that stuff to a nightclub you're not going to go to, Chicago with that. You're not going to play the Ice House with that gig. You're not going to, you're going to stay where everyone knows what a cut room is.
Yeah, I mean, why not go where the laughs are, and why risk failure by trying it out in a small club? That's for stronger people than me.
Which makes me kind of realize that he's a guy. I think he's just a guy who knew who his audience was and didn't care to do it for anybody else. And if he can sell 1 million records to those people, okay. How many do you need if you're going to live in Jackson? I mean, there's a trap to living in LA, which is you gotta keep working and keep if you're going to buy the big house, you gotta keep paying for the big house. Whereas I think a guy like that can stay. A lot of country musicians stick close to Nashville and Atlanta. Kenny Rogers lived not far from where I grew up. and then also had a place near Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
Where I went to college. And I don't, I mean, I don't even know where he's actually from. I mean, he became a country singer, but I don't consider him like, Conway Twitty level
Right.
of country.
To be fair, it's hard to be Conway Twitty level
yeah.
of anything. Hair, suits. There's a lot going on there.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a T-shirt.
By the way, I'm looking at the back of the Jerry Clower, the Clower Power album, because I was looking to see if I could see where the hell this is recorded, and I'm not seeing it. But it does begin with, "There's a chance, just a small chance, mind you, that you don't know about Jerry Clower," and like, I love it. That is how it opens.
It's an increasingly small chance now because Comedy on Vinyl has beaten him to a pulp. Here's the other thing about this record that I kept finding myself. You have it in front of you?
I have the back. Yeah, I found the back online.
Who's that guitar player?
Guitarist on What Christmas Means to Me is Carrie Banks or Corey Banks. Looks like Carrie.
Which is, I think, wonderful playing.
Guitarist on all other selections is a Mark Paden, P-A-I-D-N, or that's what it looks like, or P-A-D-E-N. It's really hard. It's a shitty scan, unfortunately.
Okay. So here's the thing. That's not added in later. I mean, there is an audience there. They're fairly quiet. I mean, not in a. I don't mean that in the sense that they're not laughing. They're attentive, and then they laugh. That Christmas one in particular, you kind of think, oh, he's gone into a studio to do this, but then they clap at the end. Granted, the clapping may be from another bit that they've pulled under. There may be some editing involved with that or some shrinking involved with that. But that sounds like that guy is there picking that guitar while he does his thing. So I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, having a live...
Who thought of that? Great. He wasn't doing that originally. That must have come later. He wasn't doing that at sales, conventions for urea. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, somebody kind of said, let's do this. Which I'm like, why?
Yeah, who's... I mean, at this point, he's with MCA, or do they want to hear... They're like, well, look, we got to hit the country music charts, maybe, and let's get 2 cuts on here that are music. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I really don't know. Now, the other thing about it that is inescapable is there is zero flow. Because there's I mean, it's a series of jokes.
I sometimes like those kinds of records. Can I tell you? I because there's in some albums like this, there's less fumfering and less of the bullshit, and especially if there's somebody who doesn't know how to do anything except tell jokes, you might as well just give me those funny cuts, and I'm fine with it. Because I don't want to listen. I don't think I want to listen to Jerry Clower, because I don't think he's a guy who's looking for jokes necessarily.
You don't hear Jerry Clower's
I don't want to hear that. I don't think. I don't know. It'd probably be fine, but.
No, it wouldn't.
Just as a salesman, I think he'd have a little bit of panache, but not. It probably wouldn't be funny. Probably wouldn't be that funny, as he's trying to remember where
you from.
Well, I've never been there. Okay, moving on.
Liberty, that's my hometown.
What?
Oh God, that's funny. Yeah, I was. But I mean, okay, let's go the other route here. You put in Jerry Seinfeld, comedian, and within reason, you know that he is starting with the first joke and working through to the last joke. He's got a flow, he's got an act. And so what that makes me wonder is, what the hell was this act like? Was there crowd work?
Right.
Because I didn't think about it as a kid, and I'm not using it as a criticism, but you definitely come away with from the record thinking, well, I know what he thinks is funny, and some of it kind of is, and some of it's sort of just building to a punchline that's not great. But I don't have any idea of what an evening with him is like.
Jerry Clower. I now want to do a record that is the in-betweens of an act like this, where it's either bad crowd work or prayer, or hey everybody, real quick, that was a good one. Can we just pray on that? Thank you so much, and let's hope the next one goes just as good. I just like the idea that there could be all kinds of crazy shit happening between jokes. I do wonder, though. Yeah, that's a good question.
I noticed, by the way, on Wikipedia that one of his albums was not done for MCA, and it was done in a church.
Yeah, it's what's it called?
And it's him giving his witness, as they say.
I cannot imagine what that is like either.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. What I wonder is it funny?
Right. Or is it just...
Because if it is, that's kind of interesting. Well, I shouldn't say. It may not be funny at all, but it may be an attempt to be funny. I mean, he may... my point is it a comedy record where he gives his witness? Because that's interesting.
God, that would be...
That's interesting.
I'm going to have to do some digging. Again, out of 27 records...
Don't make me go to...
It's too much to choose from, man. Too much to choose from.
Between my album and the iTunes that I bought because I didn't want to digitize the album, my own 2 copies of Clower Power. Don't make me buy...
Yeah, whatever the other one's called. Something like Isn't God Great? It is like something like that. It is very much like a...
It is. I believe that is what it's called. Or maybe I doubt if it isn't.
Oh yeah,
I think it's probably
right.
Yeah.
Ned,
am not God great.
Tell the people why to listen to this album. Tell them why give Jerry Clower a listen.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because we started it. The reason we went down this road is because I thought it'd be kind of fun to do one that we can't defend.
But I will say, you did not paint some terrible picture where this is a giant piece of shit.
It's not. That's the thing. I listened to it today kind of hoping it would be so that I could just be, too big for my own damn britches and trash it. It's not without... it is not without charm. The guy has definitely got a thing. It's strange. Some of, his, and by the way, he played that up a lot. All those and those kind of weird, what a teacher I had in school used to refer to as paralinguistics. All those exclamations of joy and little weird moments where he kind of sings. But there's something kind of charming about him. I guess you could roll your eyes at him, but you could also just kind of go, yeah, that's kind of... If one of my parents' friends did that, I would have loved him when I was a kid. So, anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, I wouldn't say don't listen to Jerry Clower. I don't know that I would say, he's not appointment listening. Don't drop everything and go download it. But if any of what we said today is intriguing at all, then yeah, because I think we've dissected him without getting into any much of what he did, and I laughed. And anyone who knows me can tell you I'm a free laugher. I'm not an easy laugh. And again, I've been working in and around very funny people for now 20 years. Since my first Space Ghost was 1998. 22 years. And I've gotten more and more discerning, more and more, oh, yeah, I've kind of heard that. Yeah, I know that bit. Yeah, But by the same token, if it makes me laugh, I'm going to laugh. I don't hold them in because I'm too cool to laugh. And anyone who knows me knows that I will give you the laugh if it's funny enough. And I did. I laughed a couple of times in spite of myself because I really, and it's not that I didn't want to listen to like it. I just didn't think I would. Sure. And I was prepared not to because either way I win on this show, So, yeah, if anything about what we've said sounds at all intriguing, you might get a laugh out of it. And if nothing else, there, like I said, there's a genuineness to it, and that should be scary.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. We should be like, oh, genuineness, no, especially from a Christian Southern overweight, middle-aged fertilizer salesman
Right.
in 1973. Now, if all of that sounds good to you, or any of that sounds good to you, you're on the right path here. But most of the people listening to this, I don't think that sounds like
Right.
their thing. But it doesn't. It's not off-putting. I mean, there's a couple of moments here and there where I'm kind of like, but again, it's only off-putting because it's it's 2020 and I lived through the Reagan era and through a lot of kind of political stuff that wasn't a thing then. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think so. Well, again, it's a mixed bag with some of these things, and at the very least, my very low standard of is a comedy album at least worth giving a shot is if it hasn't been, thoroughly racist, homophobic, shitty to women, et cetera, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's none of that.
Not.
So it's just going to be weird and not the funniest thing in the world, but it's got moments, and it's, there's nothing, if listening to any kind of good comedy, or any kind of comedy that makes somebody laugh is at least worth the experiment of it. So, I don't know.
Yeah. The closest thing to a racial thing he says is when he's talking about the guy from the record company having an African American hairdo. Yes. And he was a white fella. Now, if Andy Griffith made that joke, it would be knowing and it would be winking, and you would say, oh, listen to the Rube talk about the white guy with a perm. Well, it's kind of funny, a white guy with a perm. It's the 70s, and white dudes had perms. And he also says he comes skipping off of that airplane. And something about that has always made me laugh. The phrase that the guy is skipping off the airplane, because you right away this guy is too slick for the Jerry Clowers of the world. But as soon as, but then the punchline is, as soon as he finds out how much they're going to pay him for the record, he got really, really into that hairdo right away. Yeah. And it's funny. So, yeah, I mean, it I think overall it does kind of work. It just works from a point of view of honesty and not from a point of view of I'm creating a character and letting you in on the joke.
No, I mean, that does seem to be the overall theme of it.
Yeah.
Ned, this I appreciate you coming on the show, obviously.
Yeah. Thank you.
Why don't do you have anything you want to promote? Anything you want to tell people to find or look out for? This is going to come out, I think, next week. So.
I don't have anything going on right now. I mean, I'm working on Squidbillies. We've got what is supposedly the final season. I don't know when we're going to hit the air. It's going to be, I'm sure, I know it's going to be 2021. And of course, at this point, everything is pushed back, right? Because, I'm working from home, but, at some point, even that's going to, even if we keep going the way we normally do, it's going to take longer. We are going to keep going the way we normally do, but it's going to take us longer to get everything done. So it's going to be 2021 before any new comes out, but we do have it coming, and I love the episode I'm working on right now. It's very funny. They're still able to just really do funny things with these characters. So that's what's cooking. I've got a couple of ideas in my head, but I can't talk about any of them. I don't want to, and because they're not going to happen, or else they will, and then you'll be like, oh, that's that guy.
I've got one thing that I'm trying to figure out how I talk about on podcasts, because it's not out, and I'll just say, listen to the Professional Blur podcast, everybody. It's about me doing extra work. It's my other new passion. It's a seasonal show, so it's only going to be done in seasons, so nobody's going to panic if I don't release an episode every week for a while. Listen to that, and I think I might have something coming up for that, because I recently did my first voiceover job, finally, after this long in LA, and it was in a movie. Yeah, and the thing is, I did it with another person there doing the same voices, so they get to pick and choose, so there is a 50-50 chance I won't end up in the movie at all, but it is technically, it's like voice extra work, so I'm very excited to see if that happens at all. I can't talk about it just yet. And then, I don't know. Yeah, keep an eye out.
You just reminded me. I got to do some voices recently. They brought back one of our shows from several years ago called 12 Ounce Mouse. And It's Matt Malero created it. He's one of the
Oh, yeah.
Aqua Teen creators. And part of the fun of the show is that he used the people in the office to be all the voices in the show. And for whatever reason, I wasn't tapped to be in it the first time around. But he's been doing new episodes. And first he asked me, which is funny, to replace one of the other actors, which actually it was Adam Reed who created Archer, who's a friend of mine. And so he was this voice of this character that's a shark. And so he had me be the new shark because Adam couldn't do it. But then he wrote another character that I got to be. So, and I don't know when those are coming out, but I think they'll be out before the end of the year. So yeah, I got to be two voices in that. So that's fun. Yeah. I love doing that whenever I can. And I love it.
And here's how I'll cross promote another podcast. Dispatches from Fort Awesome, a news radio podcast. If you listen a few episodes back, I got one of Phil Hartman's ties, and I'm not wearing that until I do my first cartoon voiceover. So that's there. That's how I connect that to another podcast. Thank you for doing the show.
Thank you, man.
And thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years. StolenDress Entertainment.
Hey, it's my turn. Ah!